stamps or whatever, but people that are, people that have incomes of 20, 30, even 40,000, whatever it may be, I guess if you had to do this beyond belief, I guess maybe you could step back from it and say, well, it's as if it's the only way. We got to do something. We got to do something to change population growth. I guess that could be acceptable, but in my world, you don't have to do this. You do not have to do this. And so I can't get on board with that at all. The other thing is, like it or not like it, it cuts out our tax rebate checks to those that are really having a tough time, $35,000 or less. And then on top of all that and everything, it basically does things that I truly don't believe that we should be doing. And that is just what I said a minute ago. Put the burden on somebody for the benefit of somebody else. Now, we can't do that. We do not need to do that. But there's absolutely things in both plans, I'm sure, and both plans have been guided by people that are intelligent and worked hard and sincere about what they're trying to do. And all I would say is just this. Where we are today in West Virginia, like it or not like it, is our population is going down all the time. Now, I'm very, very proud about all the things that we've accomplished since I've walked in the door, and I could go on and on and on about that, but really and truly, population still went down. So at the end of the day, we got to do something. We got to really do something. Now, this absolutely, without any question, has the most appeal in every way. My plan, and this part I don't understand, and I really want us to do this in this summit here. I want us to all talk. I'm going to lead off, and then I want us to talk. I want us to absolutely say, this is what I like and this is what I don't like, and absolutely try with all in us to make some level of progress. You see, in my plan, here's what my plan did. And I'll be really quick, I think, with this. But my plan did just this. It tried to make every single living, breathing West Virginian cash positive. And it did that. Every single breathing West Virginian stayed cash positive. The other thing my plan did is recognize right off the get-go, that in order to do that, we had to take on, to a little degree, we had to take on the Charleston, what I would call the Charleston swamp, lobbyists. The lobbyists that are in the ears of all of our legislators and me all the time, all the people that are wanting to give you money and run your next campaign and everything else under the sun. We need to take them on. My plan does that. It asks a little bit all the way across the spectrum, and not just a bunch from our people. It asks a little bit for the companies to step up all the way across the spectrum. The other thing it does is just this, is it gives us opportunity beyond belief, because it really put a stake in the sand that we're really for real. And then all the good things that could happen will happen. You know, and whether they happen to the tune of what I think they're going to happen, you know, or our speaker or our president, no matter what to tune to the level of that you may think, there will be people move here, and there will be businesses happening here, and there will be opportunities happening here. I personally believe that it will be an avalanche. But if you don't, you still know that one are going to come, and then two are going to come, and then three are going to come. Now, the last part of my plan was really simple, and it was the biggest of all. You're cash positive, you balance, and absolutely there's opportunity beyond belief. But the thing about my plan that is for real as for real could ever be is you were going to put well in excess of $1 billion back in the hands of West Virginians. And when you did that, our small businesses would go like crazy to the upside. I challenge any of you 1,000, million, trillion times over. You walk out there and give every household in the state of West Virginia an average of $1,483. They're going to spend it. And when they spend it, all of our small businesses are going to benefit. Benefit like crazy. If we don't do this, we are absolutely slamming the door on our small businesses. We're slamming the door right in the face of those that are having a hard time. We're slamming the door in the face of population growth. There is nothing that could approach the importance of this. Now, let me tell you just this, and then I'm going to present something to you that is really different. You know, along the way, I have said 1,000,000 times and 1,000,000 times over, my plan, I am absolutely willing to negotiate my plan to do everything. I mean, over and over and over. If we'll just use the principles that we don't have to do. We don't have to hurt anybody to make this a possibility. You know, the people out front, when I walked in the door, they're passing out a flyer, and the top of the flyer says, all 3 income tax plans ask working West Virginians to pay the price for tax cuts for the wealthiest West Virginians. That's not true. That's not true. They absolutely are so wrong, it's unbelievable. Now, hear me out on just this. I have absolutely tried to negotiate, and I have tried to do any and everything and still stand willing could be to do anything. But like it or not like it, I've been in an auction all by myself. I've been sitting over on the sidelines saying, please tell me, and I've been in an auction constantly by myself. And what I mean by that, you show up at an auction, somebody's going to sell a house, and they say they want $100,000 for the house. I say, I'm bidding $100,000. And nobody else bids, and then I say, I'll bid $125,000. And nobody else bids, and I say, I'll bid $150,000. But you see, that's not the way this process should work. But the one thing that I have done is I have negotiated with the people. That's who I've negotiated with. As the town halls have gone on, we have negotiated down on all kinds of different aspects. I've negotiated with the people. Now, with all that, today I want to put forth a new plan, a plan that I really hope will meet the parameters of the House and the Senate, because this plan is a conglomeration of exactly what they have been telling me and the people have been telling me. Now, it won't take long, but I'll go through this and we'll pass it out. Let's pass it out real quick. Jordan, where are you? Can you do that real quick to everybody? Now, for y'all out there, we're going to throw it up on the screen behind us, too. And then we'll just open it up. We'll open it up to anybody that has anything to say about anything, and hopefully we'll start making some progress. Are you ready to put that up? All right, well, I called this Justice for All, because not necessarily my name, but that's how I feel. I feel like we should do this for all the people, whether they be poor, middle income, they be rich, our wealthiest income, they be our businesses, whatever it may be. I think we ought to do all we possibly can for all. So have you got it up there, Jordan? Okay. If you'll just follow me down on this. In the beginning, I went to a 60% reduction. Now, in looking at everything, I think we've got to pare this down and go all the way down to a 50% reduction. In that, for those that are doing the very, very best, A lot of people have unearned income from taxes, from interest or dividends or capital gains. And I said we just shove those to the side just for a little while. Just a little while. And then all the sub-S's and sole proprietorships and Schedule C and everything, instead of us putting them at a half reduction off the get-go, I put them at a third. Then I came right on down. I left my sales tax the same. I took the lottery tax out on lottery tickets and took it completely out. I came right down. I left in exactly what we had before to bring in the professional services. I came right on down. I want you to stay pay really close attention to this, because this is the tier on severance tax. I met repeatedly with the Coal Association and the gas people, and I know they're in everybody's ear nonstop. All I've wanted them to do is do a token amount of dollars. And truly, then, if things were really phenomenally good for them, I ask them then is when they're going to throw in dollars into the collection plate. Now, just look at what I've done. And let's go to something that I am really, really good at, and that's the coal side. When we met, the Coal Association was great with going to less than 2% if you go below $35. That's what I did. Or going to 2% under $35. The Coal Association, everybody from the guy Dennis from the Murray operation and on said on steam coal, if we would go from $35 to $55, they would be great with that. My previous plan, I think, went to like $52.99. I went for $35 for all practical purposes to $60. Nothing changes. Nothing. Steam producers at $60 a ton with no change in their severance tax would do so well it is unbelievable. From $60 to $69, prices that we have not seen forever, they would go up 0.5%. From $70 to $84, which we have not seen for forever and ever, they would go up a little bit more. Now, let's go back to met coal just a second. On met coal, we did the same thing. Arch said if we go less than 65, we're at 4%. If we go above 65, from 65 to 90, they would be absolutely all in. From 65 to 90, they would be all in. I just changed it from $65 to $115, $114.99. Nothing changes. Nothing changes. From $115 to $134, they go up 0.5%. Now, I'm going to step right there, and I'm going to show you something on this easel, and I want you just to really dial into what I'm saying, just for one second. Okay, where's my pins? Here they are. Can y'all see red better than anything? Probably. Let's go with that. I'm going to show you something. I'm hobbling here. I've got one shoe off because my leg's going crazy. Up to 100. Well, this is not going to show up really good. Let me try another one. Let me try green. Okay. At $115 a ton, up to this, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Let me tell you, my family's in the metallurgical coal business. Our costs are $55 a ton. My family mines today about 2.5 million tons a year, and we're small guys. We're small fries. At this price right here, nothing changes. Do you know what my family at this price right here would make on an annual basis? If you'll take that, from that, you come up to $60. $60 a ton profit. Is that right? That's right. $60 a ton times 2.5 million is $150 million a year profit. And nothing changes. Nothing. Nothing changes. Now, when you go above that, and you go from 115 to 135, to 135, you go up 0.5%. Now, 0.5% on this, is let me get straight. It's about 70 cents a ton. At $135 a ton, my companies are going to make $80 million. They're going to make $200 million. And this is all they'd have to pay. 70 cents. Now look, that's ridiculous in my part, in my camp. And absolutely, I think our coal people and our gas people will embrace what we do. Because they are part of West Virginia in every way, and I think they need to embrace what we want to do. Now, with that, the gas situation is almost exactly the same. Before, my model said from 80 cents, I think, to $1.20, that's at the wellhead, that nothing basically would change. Now my model says from 80 cents to $3 at the wellhead. Prices we've never even seen. Nothing will change. But if prices were to go off the chart, where our companies, whether they be gas or they be coal or oil or whatever it may be, are bathing in money, they're West Virginia companies, and we need them to just throw a little in the collection plate. Now, from the standpoint, let me go back, because this won't take long. From the standpoint of a consumption tax on the very wealthiest people, and it is so small, it is so minute, it's unbelievable. But if they were to go buy one item, not a kitchen set, one item, that would be a $5,000 item or more, they would pay 3%. 3%. If they buy an item that costs $5,000, it's going to cost them $150. They're the very wealthiest of the wealthiest, and absolutely, I don't see how in the world they can't afford that. As far as cigarette taxes and whatever like that, and cigarette and OTP tax, I don't know, wholesale, I don't know, the other tobacco products, we left them exactly the same as the Senate plan. Exactly the same. From the standpoint of the e-cigarettes, we dropped it way down because we were out of kilter. At one time, I think we were at 75 cents or whatever, where we dropped it to 20. From the standpoint of the beer, the wine, and the liquor, we marked it off. Nothing. We went to zero. And we went to zero because we had continual people in the town halls that were saying that we were semi-non-competitive right now, and we needed to go to zero. We can. And so we went to zero. Zero. Now, from the standpoint of our soda pop, we went from 5 cents down to 2.4 cents. The soda pop people have not had a raise on taxes for 70 years. We cut it to less than half of what I'd proposed before. And then we went back, because Eric is working really hard on his bill and everything and has some cuts. You know, we talked before about $25 million in cuts from the Senate side, $10 million of attrition we would pick up, but then we had forgotten one thing that was really important, and that's just this, is if you put $1 billion into the hands of people, they're going to spend it. And we're going to recoup sales tax from that. And that amounted to $62 million if 80% of the money is spent. And then we assumed growth at $80 million. And we're balanced. So in other words, the long and the short of this plan is just this. From the standpoint of our natural resources, my heavens to Betsy, anybody that could not be with us in our natural resource industry for this is really, you know, I grew up around my dad, Lawson Hamilton, Buck Harless, and Tracy Hilton. And they were the kings in my world, the four kings. They would be so ashamed of a bunch of out-of-state companies that wouldn't get all on board for this instantaneously. They would be so ashamed because they were all so dedicated to West Virginia, it was unbelievable. They were kings in my life, and they did so much it was unreal, but they loved our state. They loved our state more than good sense. Now, so, the long and the short of this whole plan is just this. It does raise sales tax 1.9%, but it gives rebate checks of $52 million. And it assures without any question that every single West Virginian will end up with more money in their pocket than they started. It's not complicated. It's not. It's not complicated. It's absolutely a plan, and I want to flash up. I want you to go to the third page just for a second. On the third page of this, and y'all ought to be able to see it. I hope you can see it out there. Can they see it out there, Jordan? Okay. Okay. Okay, now, Jordan, that's your deal. Can you make it where they can see it? Let me go back. Dave Hardy just passed me this and everything, just to make sure everybody understands. We're going to a 50% reduction to all of our individuals, but we're also going to a 33% reduction to our companies, on things, that is a 33% reduction in other items such as business profits. These are our Schedule C people. These are our Sub S people and all. Is that not correct? And what my goal is to get rid of the income tax, because these people, and here's my feelings, if you're out of state and you're looking at West Virginia and you're paying 10% income tax, whatever it may be, and you're looking at West Virginia, and today, if we do this today, you're going to probably be somewhere less than 4%, or right around 4%. And we are on a pathway to get rid of your income tax here. What are you going to do? Somebody or some people are going to move their companies here. And that's going to give us more and more job opportunity. More and more goodness can happen everywhere. So the bottom line to the whole thing is just this. You go up 1.9% in the sales tax. You don't have anything to do with beer and liquor and wine. You do a little bit on tobacco, almost nothing on soda. You absolutely ask our natural resource people to play. But, we have budgeted them in for $36 million, but that is nothing. That is not going to affect them today. That's all growth. That's all growth as to where we think we're going to be tomorrow, because we have seen an uptick in severance. That's growth. That's nothing. That's not tagging them today in any way. The only way that they would get tagged any way at all is the price goes so high that you can't imagine it. You can't absolutely imagine it. So if you go on down and you move on down through everything, you go down to the offsets where your budget cuts, a little bit of attrition, a little bit of money coming in from the spend of the money that we give to the people and put it back in people's hands, and a little bit of growth, and you're there. Didn't have to hurt anybody. Now, what you can't see, we'll pass out to you later, and I'll just read it to you real quick. The tax changes on all those that are not smokers. If you're in the under 10,000 bracket, you're going to end up with $265 more money in your pocket, even though you do not pay income tax at all. We're going to give you a tax rebate check, $350, and probably give you that split up over 4 different quarters. If you're 15,000, you're going to end up with $279. 20,000, $292. 25, $292. 30, $324. 35, $364. All of those people at those levels are getting a rebate check of some sort. Then beyond that, at 40,000, you're going to end up with $409 more money. 50,000, you're going to end up with $638 more money. 60,000, $938 more money. 70,000, $1,192 more dollars. 80,000, $1,517 more dollars. 90,000, $1,842, and at 100,000, $2,082 more dollars. If you do tobacco, those numbers change just a little bit, and I'm not going to read them all, but you start out less than 10,000 at $219, and you go to 30,000 at $245, and go to 60,000 at $839 if I'm on the right line, and then you go to 90,000 at $1,746. Let me tell you, I hope to goodness that you know that I have changed and changed and changed, and I want us to not miss this so badly, because it is our chance. Now, it makes no sense to me, no sense, that if I was willing to stand here and hand this man $1,500, and he was then having to go out and pay $400 for something, for some tax, whether it be soda pop or whatever it may be, and he's going to end up with $1,100 extra dollars in his pocket. There is no excuse. There is no excuse for us to turn our back and just say, no, we don't want to do that. The reason we don't want to do that is we don't want to raise any tax. That's just not smart. We just do not need to do that. And we don't need to lay all of the burden on the people that are having a tough time. I have given you a pathway here to not, all the lobbyists that are all up in arms and everything and hollering about this and that and everything, and the cold people trying to tell you, oh God, this will cause the whole ceiling to fall and we'll die and everything else, which is anything but the truth. I have given you a pathway that is so gentle and it helps every single person. I really, really mean this when I say I know how hard you're working. And I really, really appreciate all that you're doing, because serving is a tough deal. And I mean that. But I am telling you, honest to goodness, I am begging you, talk to me, work with me, and let's some way, somehow, not let this opportunity miss. Now, I know we don't have a lot of time. I know that. But I know this too, that we cannot put this burden right on the backs of some so it'll help others. We can't do that. So anyway, I'll stop right there and let y'all talk, or somebody else talk. Please jump in. And don't sit there today and not say anything. Honest to God, please don't do that to me. Why don't we let our Senate President and Speaker speak first, and then we'll just kind of go from there, you know? And then we'll let the minority do the same thing, okay? And I know you're working the numbers, aren't you? You want to go?
From the perspective of a lot of the House members, I know when we've taken up discussions of personal income tax reduction, one of the principal concerns that the members of the House always debate at length is how any proposed plan would differentiate West Virginia from neighboring states, specifically as it relates to the border county issue. And I know you and I have talked about that. You and President Blair and I've had those conversations. Maybe if you could talk for just a minute about how you view this current plan, what you believe its impact, good or bad, would be on bordering counties, and from that maybe talk about how you've arrived at the increase in growth, 20 million from the last plan to this one. I think it would help the members of the House who are looking at this plan right now.
Okay. Let's just take the guy that's at the convenient mart, that's right on the border, in a border county. You know, first of all, for all practical purposes, every single thing he's selling in the store, everything, you could go to Walmart in that county and buy cheaper. But he survives today. Let's take the dress shop downtown in a border county. You know, just think, my whole premise centers around just this. Do you realize that today, for all these folks, if they're here, I think the government, just as they do on everything, on all reimbursements, pays like 56 cents a mile on your vehicle. Now, just think, if you were going to make a $100 purchase somewhere, and the difference was going up in the sales tax, that's what we're doing. We're not going up, you know, it's not saying we're going to 9% or whatever. We're going up 1.9% above where we are today. That's $1.90. You buy $100 worth of something, it's going to cost $1.90 more money today. Now, if you're in a border county and you really believe that your vehicle and your gas and the wear and tear on your vehicle and everything's worth 55 cents or 56 cents, you can't go but about 2.8 miles. And that's both ways. So you can go 1.4 miles and buy something, and you can come 1.4 miles back. Now, the economics are that. But the other thing that the economics are that we just flies right by us is that family, no matter who they are, is going to have so much more money in their hands, so much more money. That family, if they're, I mean, it just doesn't matter. That family, if they're a $50,000 a year family, and they're going to end up right off the get-go with $908 more that they're going to get. $908 more. I said on a $100 purchase it's going to cost $1.90. They're going to end up with $908 more. Now, by the time we figured all the way across, we figured that it was going to cost them $250 a year in increased sales tax. And we figured it's going to cost them $88 in tobacco, $19 more in soft drinks. Do you know how many soft drinks they're going to have to buy? I mean, on a 2.4%, for every dollar, it's 40 soft drinks. This number is 760 soft drinks in that family. $19. Now, they're going to end up, Mr. Speaker, with $908 we're going to give them right off the get-go. And all these wisdom here says they're going to spend through the course of the year, they're going to spend $250 more on sales tax. They're going to end up with way more money in their pocket than where they start from. And that's in the border county. If they buy all the stuff in the county. Now, if we don't do this, that family is going to net a loss of $549 because we're not going to give them the money. We're not going to give them the money. So the family is going to be upside down, an opportunity of $549 extra dollars, and we're not going to give them the money. Now, the other thing that's going to happen to that border county, as I've told you this 1,000 times, is the people on the other side of the border are going to move here. They're going to move here because they want this money too. It's just common sense. I mean, if you're across the border and you're making 50, 60, 10,000, whatever the number may be, and you can come here and you can get somebody, these people will send a check every 3 months. Every 3 months they'll send you a check. Not just a rebate check, for the payroll checks, every 3 months they'll send you a check. You're going to come. Schools are going to get better. Roads are going to get better. Everything's going to happen. Please, somebody else has something, please. Mr. President. Yeah, please.
Maybe my mic's not on. That'd probably be a good thing, too. All right. I'm sitting here looking at this, and of course, I'm going to lay some groundwork before I go all the way in on this. First of all, I am from a border county. I'm from the fastest growing county in the state of West Virginia, Berkeley County. The border county borders Maryland and Virginia. And so when we look at our community that we have up there, the people do travel outside the state to buy their gasoline. They go south. They go to Virginia for that. When you go north, it used to be because of the food tax. We eliminated the food tax, so that solved that aspect of it. You have to keep in mind, though, that the people are moving into our area. Why? Because the real estate property taxes and the quality of life that come along with it, not being in the urban environment, so to speak, even though it isn't it's becoming an urban environment. For anybody that's listening right now, when I graduated from high school, I think the population in Berkeley County was in the 45,000 range. We're pushing 120,000. Now, what you're talking about doing here, and the governor overheard me as I was speaking to Secretary Hardy here at the beginning of the meeting, the surest way for me to win my next election is to be able to vote for this and do this. Why? Because I can tell you that if we pull this off and get rid of the personal income tax in the state of West Virginia over the next couple of years, it has to be done in relatively short term, there'll be 100,000 people move into the Eastern Panhandle, Berkeley County specifically. You have to understand the dynamics. And that is, and Chairman Householder will probably agree with me on this, once the people move in, they want to close the door. They do not want anybody else come in behind them. But that doesn't always relate to the population that is lived there. We'd love to be able to, and that's what we're talking about doing, is taking the problems or some call them problems back home, but in reality, it's the benefits and overlaying them onto 52, 53 other counties in this state. And it's called growth. The growth we're talking about here increases the property values. Secretary Hardy and I was sitting here talking earlier about the city of Martinsburg. When I graduated from there in 1977, the town itself was not in too good shape. Because of the growth, people that moved there took $50,000, $100,000 home, invested into them. Those homes now are worth $250,000, $300,000. That was revitalization. And it was because of the encouragement of growth that, to a greater degree, we didn't have too much to do with that because we were a bedroom community. The problem we had there was that we didn't have the jobs that were associated with it, the GMs, the Corning, the 3M, all of them had left because of death, 1,000 paper cuts, most of it inflicted upon them by the government right here in the state of West Virginia. Now we've unwound that. We've unwound it with the workers' comp reform, getting our pensions straight, running budgets 3 years with fiscal restraint on those. And there's a whole host of other things, the tort reforms that we've done. It's a layering effect. I didn't say that right. Layering effect. That adding all of this, the thing, and comes up to the greater the sum of on that. And it is working now. The average person in West Virginia is making $5,200 some more than what there was just 6 years ago. That's a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. So we've got things heading in the right direction. I'm with the governor when he talks about wanting to take and make a bold initiative and get rid of this personal income tax in the state of West Virginia. Now, when it comes to the cold severance tax, where the reason it's not in the Senate plan is because we would struggle to have votes for that. Am I right, Chairman Tahir? And so that come out. Now, if you've have you made adjustments on this since this is okay, I wasn't sure because I don't.
No, on the gas and the coal, we made incredible adjustments.
Okay. Because it's hard for me to digest all this whenever I don't have everything in front of me before that. But if coal's on board, well, then that's a big point. On the cigarette tax, I didn't go far enough earlier. And that is that the people that travel out of the state to go buy their gasoline, and they do. But if you're not paying any income tax, then they're less likely to do that because they'll understand the process of that. But let's say that they don't care. Most of the time it's because they're working outside of our state that they're doing that. They're going to Maryland or Virginia for their jobs. So they buy fuel in Virginia if they work down there as they travel in and out. It's not so much though that people get in their vehicle and just drive there, but if they don't have job opportunities in our state, which they are growing, our job opportunities are growing, and this is what we're talking about doing here, is creating job opportunities as well. Am I correct, Governor?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Then what happens is you keep them home from that standpoint, and you don't lose that. Now, I used to be the GovOrg chairman, and I sat on the Municipal Home Rule Board because I'm getting ready to talk about sales tax increase. And I was concerned, border county, north and south of it, and would people get ready and go across state lines to pay that tax or to save money on that tax? I quickly found out that didn't change people's buying habits because when you looked at the city of Martinsburg and any other of the cities throughout the state, they didn't go, businesses didn't move outside, people didn't pay any attention. I defy anybody in here to show me one time that you paid any attention to your sales tax that you're paying on your receipt. And it's not because we're all sitting in here wealthy, or because we're not. It's the fact of the matter is that nobody pays any attention to that, and they don't pay it when we travel or pay any attention to it when we travel. This is one of the things that make this plan work, and is the fact that you pick up people traveling to the state, and what's the percentage of tourism increase that we've had over the last 4 years in this state?
It's unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to have
it's
Chelsea
significant
here.
numbers, though.
It's really big.
Okay, so now when
And
you add
we're-
the consumption tax here, and I'm a big believer in the consumption tax, in the next 10 years, you're going to see the whole country migrate to a consumption tax because And that's the next thing, that I am a cigarette smoker. I'm probably the only one here at this table that smokes. And I don't mind paying the extra 1% because it's a voluntary tax. If I don't like it, I quit smoking.
We got to get you to stop that.
Well,
We got to get you to think real hard about that and stop that, okay?
there's a lot of people
Doc right there beside us is trying to work on you too.
yeah, a lot of people are glad I smoke too. But what I'm trying to say here on this is that one really doesn't make any difference either from that perspective. Look, if raising the price on it deters smoking, and I believe to a certain degree it does, or they find other ways of getting to it, whether it's a black market or buying the tubes and packing their own cigarettes. And there's a whole economy out here for that. Well, what makes us think for a minute that this income tax does not deter employment? The fact of the matter is, it does deter employment. Now, that doesn't mean that people are out here and they're just not employed. What it is working on the cash economy. There's an underground cash economy that's out here that the only way that you're able to get them to pay their share is to be able to have it on a consumption tax. I defy anybody in this room tell me that they haven't had somebody work for them for cash, whether it be daycare, housekeeping, driveway sealing, roofing repair, cutting wood, firewood. I used to joke about that. But they're out here working for cash, sometimes on public assistance. There's an unwritten book out there on how to game the system. But yet, we're putting the tax burden over half of our budget on the backs of the people that will go to work in this state. That becomes a problem. And it's not just this state. It's every state has a very similar problem with that. This is why the consumption tax is going to be the wave of the future. This is why you see other states considering this. Now, Governor, I'll ask another question, and that is that we're going to have a bucketing mechanism in here because I agree with you. There isn't anything on this piece of paper that I got in that I believe is accurate. But people talk about Kansas. On the set plan, we had a bucketing mechanism so that whenever we did the funding of it, that we never got ourselves into a situation like Kansas. Your plan also has that, correct?
It does not have it in this right here. You know, and Dave, you know, what I tried to do before was just this, and I think, I don't, was that, did you want me to answer that, or?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't want to cut you off there, but you see, we really have worked really hard together, and I give everybody credit. We're pumping surplus after surplus after surplus out in this state. Now, in doing so, what I would have done and what I would surely still like to do is take a percentage of that surplus money and create a third possible shortfall as we go forward. Now, in doing so, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth, and I mean, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. Senator Manchin, just being cute and everything, wrote in language that we will have to vet no matter what we do. No matter what we do here, we're going to have to vet to make sure that we are absolutely on rock solid ground in accepting the stimulus money from the federal government and doing any level of mechanism here at all. But we've gotten from now until this coming January to do so. You know, what I would do is not take any of the CARES money whatsoever and do anything in regard to our income tax plan at all, But it doesn't, I don't know why in the world it could prevent us from taking our surpluses that we're generating and insulating ourselves with a bucket that way.
Great. I'm glad to hear that because the bucketing, we never want to get in the position that Kansas put in themselves out there. And I've heard this over and over. And on the Senate plan, we had that factored in because we never want to go to that point. Now, you got to factor other things in with this. And that is that we're getting ready to deploy high-speed fiber broadband throughout this state. Right. That increases property sellability and all the services that go around with that. But it also increases the real estate property taxes associated with it. And you can see throughout the state during the COVID pandemic that people were coming into this place, and if they had broadband, they were buying up the property, sight unseen in a lot of cases, for the listed price. And that was throughout this state. This wasn't in the Eastern Panhandle that I'm talking about. It's throughout this state. This is what you're talking about when you're trying to do this. You're trying to jump on that point in time and be able to keep that momentum still there. Correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, with the bucketing mechanism and going about this now, again, there's a difference here on being able to get the votes done. For us, the speaker and myself, we work for our members on being able to do this. And this is where the problem is. They've got to have a clear vision of understanding. I'd vote for this in a heartbeat, and I do believe what you've got here is an improvement from what we talked about when we originally come out with it. And we've been trying to look at different avenues. Remember, the Senate, 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, that we worked on personal income tax stuff. And there was all the people coming out and, for lack of a better term, raising hell with us because we're doing this and we're doing that. But we realized that we needed to do something on that. But that window of opportunity evaporated before our eyes. So it's back before us again here today. I'm telling you that from my vision, the consumption tax is not an issue on this. Consumption tax on luxury items is not an issue. The severance taxes, if you've got this worked out, that takes and brings more votes in, at least on the Senate side. Do you believe that I'm correct, gentlemen? Yeah, and if it's coming off of what it was before, I have no idea on that. And I'm all in favor of tiered mechanism, and I told my side of that, even if kept the numbers where the prices are today, and then there was no tax increase at all on them for what the current rates are. But going into the future, and let's say that met coal started selling for $200, there needs to be a mechanism for the state to recover a little bit of that back for all the things that associated.
That's all I'm doing.
I know that's what you're asking for. But we didn't have that into our plan from that standpoint. I'll shut up and let other people go. But I think you get a clear message from me that, look, if we can garner the votes, I'm in favor of moving forward with this. And we have been, by the work that you've seen, what we've done on our side.
Well, let me comment real quick. Let me just say this. In 2017, when we tried and we introduced plans and everything, we weren't ready. We just weren't ready. We weren't ready as a state. We had everything upside down. We were hemorrhaging all over the place. We had just deficits everywhere and looking at cuts out the yin-yang and everything else. We're ready today. We're ready right now. We've got surpluses. The eye of the world is looking right at us. We won't be ready forever, but we're ready right now. And absolutely, Senator Tarr, let me just say just this, that from the standpoint of, guys, everybody, I'm the only one sitting here, I guess, that I run all across the whole state. And I understand wholeheartedly that, that we've got to, we've got to tend to caucuses and we've got to do all of our stuff. And I get every bit of that. And I'm very respectful of all that. From the standpoint, and you got to know this, from the standpoint of the coal side, to give you a perfect example, Dennis, and I don't know Dennis's last name was Murray, but he sat there and he said, if you'd go, he leaned over as they were leaving the last time and put his hand on me and said, Governor, you don't know how close you are. If we can go to $55, if we can go to $55, we're there. I went to 60. I went to 60. All in the world that I'm saying to those companies is just this. And let me do some math real quick, but think about it. What if coal went to $300 a ton? What if coal went to $300 a ton? In the state of West Virginia today, our total severance, last year or whatever was, or projected, a month or two ago on coal was how much more? $150 million. Total. Every bit of it. Now just think with me just a second. And that's why the tiering is so important. In 2008, coal was at $330 a ton, loaded in a railroad car at the mine on a short ton basis. Please listen to me. Listen really close. We mine, yeah, you can hand those out, Jordan. Yeah. But we mine in West Virginia at that time well in excess of 100,000 tons, 100 million tons, but let's just make it today, how much coal are we mining in West Virginia? 70 million tons today. Please stay with me. I want you really to dial in. If coal were to go to $300 on the met market, the amount of metallurgical coal we would mine in West Virginia would probably approach 35 million tons. We would still be mining 45 or 50 million tons of steam coal and still be way, way, way under where we had been in years past. If you tier this severance tax, and the companies, heaven to Betsy, you can't imagine the magnitude of money that the companies would be making at $300 a ton. It would be obscene. It would be so hoggish, it would be off the chart, but it would be obscene, the amount of money that the coal company would make at $300 a ton. Just think about it. With thin seam at 1% and 2% and everything, on my tiering, it would raise the thin seam along, and it would raise the people that are paying 5%, they would end up at that kind of level 7. But all of it combined together would raise an average severance tax probably of somewhere around 3.25%. Now just stay with it and think about the number. Think about the number. It would be an extra $10 a ton that the state would get on 35 million tons. It would be $350 million if we were tiered for this windfall. $350 million that we just blow. He said today all the coal together is $150 million. That's what the tiering does. And these companies would be bathing in money. They'd be making so much money. Can't miss it. I'm telling you. Just can't miss it. Okay, somebody else.
Governor. So I think that there's some things we strongly agree on, or we wouldn't be sitting here, I think, at the table all together. That, first of all, I do believe that at this time in West Virginia's history, it's probably the most opportune time we'll ever have to do a thing this big that can affect population moving into this state. So the other 9 states that do not have a personal income tax have doubled the rate of population growth for the rest of the country. And there's a high correlation to that tax policy relative to people, the way they move. With regard to consumption tax, there's a lot of misinformation out there. You guys have both helped this sheet people were handing in. And I agree with you there too, is that it's either misinformation because they've either not really understood the bills as they read them, or it's just an intentional misleading of the general public to try to oppose the bill. And that's kind of a sad thing to be seeing relative to something this big. So there's the consumption side of that on sales tax. One of the things that's been out there that's not telling the complete story and used as a falsehood is that the sales tax, as we're putting on the state, would be the highest in the country. But the effective sales tax rate is a combination, as you know, of the state sales tax and then your local sales tax. Now, taken as a whole, West Virginia, that's about 6.5%. In any given municipality, if they have home rule, it's going to be 7% right now. So that when you take that effective tax rate, there are 16 states that have a higher effective tax rate than West Virginia if we were to adopt even the Senate versions of the plan, which is a 2.5% increase on the sales and use tax. And then of those 16, the 4 that are closest to it are no income tax states. So they're using consumption as a way to go in to offset that revenue. And would you agree with me that the personal income tax for the state as a revenue source is a stable revenue source?
Absolutely.
And would you agree that sales and use tax is a stable revenue source for the state?
Explain that to me, Dave. No, I didn't. Oh, yes.
So, do you have any concerns about increasing the dependence on severance with regards to that volatility? So without having some sort of mechanism to smooth that, so you're taking a very unstable source in an unstable market with the Biden administration, especially looking to put its foot on the throat of natural gas, coal, and using that as a forecasting mechanism for being able to reduce the personal income tax.
It's probably, by it being put in here the way it's being put in here, I want you to understand, Senator, that we counted on the severance tax as being a zero. The fact is, based on where we are today, we are at such a low number today, we feel like there's going to be some level of growth, and that number in here is the growth. It's not the severance tax. It's just the simple factor of growth. And so without any question, you can't, there's no way that you can bet there's going to be a $300 coal market or something like that ever. You can't bet on anything like that. So therefore you had to put it in, and Mark put it in at zero. He put it in the benefit from the tiering of the severance tax at zero. And if some point in time down the road we really hit the mother load, it's there ready for us. And it's the same way with the companies. Somewhere down the road, if the company really hits the mother load, more power to them. But really and truly, the only thing we put in is growth.
So if there's growth, you could use the bucketing mechanism that Senate President referred to earlier, with or without. So this is the thing he was talking about with votes, because it is a challenge. In this body, I think in the Senate, I would say it's also probably a challenge in the House, that if the coal industry feels like they are at risk after coming off a pretty, I would say you'd agree to this too, and if you don't, then just let me know, a relatively challenging market over the past year or so, that when they're going to have to go in and essentially finance operating capital to get caught back up on a lot of those, since we're giving them a break up front with your plan, I like that. I like that part about the tiering. If it gives them a chance to grow that industry in anticipation of that down pressure from the Biden administration, because the bucketing mechanism that the Senate President explained, regardless of what creates a surplus, doesn't matter if it's coal, it doesn't matter if it's sales, it doesn't matter what it is, but whatever that surplus comes in across the budget that would create, that bucketing mechanism, whether it be coal or anything else, would go in to help
to fund reduction of the personal income tax, but you have to do that surplus, I would, at least in my opinion, on a smoothing mechanism so that it's not a dollar for dollar on your surplus, because if you do that, you could have a great surplus one year and a small surplus next. And so you have to account for stability. And so in the Senate plan, anything that is a volatile source of revenue falls into year 2, and then it's smooth. It's not a dollar for dollar mechanism. The things that are in year 1, the reason that we chose the things that were in there, and I want you to understand that you and the people watching, the reason that we have those things in there, and then hear your critique of them, because I think that you're given as honest and hard effort as anybody I've seen out there that's done. So, so I would appreciate the critique. So the way that, first of all, the Senate plan goes after stable revenue sources, and in those stable revenue sources, such as an increase in the sales and use tax to swap out with reduction in personal income tax, it produces around $700 million or so of stable revenue sources that bring down the personal income tax. When you start getting into increasing excise tax, like on soda, we looked at a million different ways of that in the Senate plan of how you would do that. And originally, the Senate plan eliminated the excise tax and moved that over to the food tax at a 2.5% rate. So when you hear adding a food tax, it's not adding back what you typically would have on. We pulled numbers on the average person, median income household. That would result in about a $65 increase in taxes per year for the median household income at 2.5%. So on food. Excuse me, it's on food at home, and food away from home would be $49. So, but it's a stable revenue source. The hotel occupancy tax at 4.3% is a stable revenue source. The increase of 2.5% on sales and use is a stable revenue source. To get up to that, $700-some million. As we got into things that we're looking at that could be detrimental as you started to increase consumption tax, one of the things that we did have concern about is the current way that we do tax the soda products is that we're an outlier in the country on how we do that as an excise tax. There's not a lot of people in the country that actually use excise tax on soda. And that thing's tied pretty tight, mainly because of its relationship to WU Health Sciences. That's the reason it's pretty much the untouchable. But when you move that to sell on the receipt, which is what would have happened with food tax as opposed to an excise tax, that creates a condition on your borders where we have retailers who advertise something that's very price sensitive. Price sensitive meaning that if they come into your business and they're going to look, they're either going to buy or not at your place because the price matters. With an excise tax, the price is elevated right off what they market with and they compete across the border. When the tax is on the receipt instead of on the excise, the cost to that person selling it, their wholesale cost is lower, and you don't have to advertise the tax, which gives you a competition basis at the border that allows you to advertise something that draws people into the state. So when you go to increase the excise tax, to me, that one, it creates an unstable and unpredictable measure relative to how that's going to affect the sales. And so if there were an excise tax on that, it should also go into a volatile tax structure or a down pressure tax structure, like cigarettes. Cigarettes are in the Senate plan as well, and you adopted that price. One of the things it does not count that money off of cigarettes in year 1. And the reason it doesn't do it in year 1 is because there's a down pressure on sales as you raise the price. So when you raise the price, you decrease sales, you're going to decrease the tax collection you can draw off of year after year to a point until you drive it into black market. We used that because there's also upside on the expense of the state for smoking, because there's also be people who would smoke less if you do that. But we put it into a smoothing mechanism that we talked about before for the bucketing. The things that were probably the hardest, I would say, in the Senate plan are when you go in and start eliminating exemptions. And because there can be a bit of a pyramiding effect on the exemptions when you do that. But we put in a mechanism within that SAFER plan that as soon as the personal income tax is eliminated, you go back and you start eliminating the taxes you used to eliminate the personal income tax, and the most adverse ones first. So I guess it's a long way to get to. There is concern within the Senate of using volatile and less predictable taxes to offset a reduction in a very stable revenue source. So how would you critique that?
Well, Senator, you bring out a lot of good points, and I would say just this, and this is a real challenge. It's a challenge for all of us, but I would promise you I've done lots of stuff, and I've made lots and lots of great big deals and everything, and in doing so, I always found just one thing, and that is the easiest stuff is always the toughest to find, always. To me, you're making this enormously hard. I always say, count the cows and just count the cows. Quit trying to count the legs and divide by 4. In this situation, in my opinion, you're counting the caterpillar's legs to try to find out how many caterpillars are in the yard. And it is so complex that it is really tough. The biggest thing that I think the Senate plan, that will be a tremendous obstacle, is just this, is like it or not like it, it puts an incredible burden back on those that are struggling the most. They're going to perceive it that way. And at the end of the day, I say it all the time, and I don't say this in any way other than just the truth. If we come out and we say we're going to do 8.5% when we're having trouble with Speaker Hanshaw at 7.9, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have an avalanche of voters that are going to line up adamantly against. If we don't come out with a way to give them these tax rebates to keep them cash positive, you're going to have an avalanche of voters. I would say that if we had Chelsea Ruby right here, who has grown tourism in this state to a level that is absolutely unprecedented, she would say that her people are going to go completely crazy if we invade tourism. And so I really, the only other things that I would add is this, is why do we need to be afraid of what another state is either doing or not doing? In the middle of the COVID situation, we had to do a lot of things that other states weren't doing, or that other states were doing wrongly. And we made those moves, and it worked. I am telling you, at the end of the day, there are so many different ways to shake this up and make this work. But I have given you an easy out. From the standpoint of the coal people, you mentioned from the coal people, and I can hear them. We've gone through a real tough time, and we have. It was really tough. We've gone through a really tough time, and now we need to make a little money so we can reinvest. We can buy our equipment back, and instead of trying to paste it together with duct tape, we can do all these things and everything. We'll be okay. And I'd say that's right. That's right. To a big degree, that's right. But I also would say just this. With what we're asking now of our coal companies, our absolute gas companies, they are part of us. We don't need to be the state that comes in dead last over and over, and people migrate to Florida or wherever it may be. How many wealthy people do you know that left West Virginia and have a residence somewhere else? I know a pile of them. And on top of that, we don't need to be the state that our timber was all cut a century ago, and people from out of state took our money and left. Or we don't need to be a state where our gas companies hit the mother lode or our coal companies hit the mother lode and take our money and leave us. We don't need to be that state. So with all that, I would say just please seriously consider every aspect, because along the way, I have now greatly diminished the exposure on the coal and the gas. The soda tax is next to nothing. You know, from the standpoint of beer, wine, and liquor, took completely away. I have kept everybody with money in their pockets. You can't argue that. There's no way you'll be able to argue that. And we have done it all without laying the burden right on top of somebody else. You know, look, I'm really selfish about this, and I know we have our minority here, and I want them to speak. But I am really, really selfish about this. I truly do believe that our majority has done this state good in many ways. And literally, I would just tell you, just straight up as you can be, as we move forward with this, if we lay this on the backs of anybody, it is going to be a tsunami, and we're not going to like the tsunami. So if we could just hear from our, yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Governor. As always, I'm willing to listen. I think that's important in any debate. I just want those who are listening in today, you know, I'm trying to give you, Governor, I'm trying to give you the easiest way out, and I believe the easiest way out is the proposal that obviously House has already passed. I mean, we've passed a bipartisan plan that has over 65% favorability rating with the general public. And the reason why, because it gives tax relief from any source of income. Tax relief to everybody. The House's plan stimulates growth, and it does that by attracting high wage earners. And it also addresses the growth and rate of spending of government. The plan that I see before us today, once again, hampers growth. And I want to draw everybody to an analogy. It's like drawing water from one side of a lake and then dumping it back in the other side of the lake. It doesn't do anything. It reminds me of the saying of a fool and his money are soon parted. But let me give you some feedback, and I want to do this in a helpful way. The plan that I see before us today still penalizes small businesses and those who have farm income. I mean, small businesses are the lifeblood, you know, of our industry here in West Virginia. I believe the plan still puts us at a competitive disadvantage with all of our neighboring states. And also the plan still burdens those who make the least amount of income. And how do I know that? Because we have to offer rebates. So if we have to offer rebates, we're still hurting those who make the least amount of income. The House right now has a common sense approach. It's a moderate approach. Doesn't wreck the West Virginia economy. And it burdens no one. Yes, it may take 12 years. I think it's a more common sense approach. It doesn't shift any taxes. It doesn't increase any taxes. I'm trying to give you the easiest way out, but I wanted to give you feedback, Governor, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate you, sir. And the only thing is we adamantly agree on just one thing, and that is just this, is, you know, I cannot fathom if you put money in every one of our hands right here, and you put $1,000 in every one of our hands, that we wouldn't go out tomorrow and spend more money in the state of West Virginia than we spend today. There's no way on earth that I can make any level of sense to that whatsoever. And if you really think that you're not going to lay on the poor, Secretary Hardy, here is exactly his exact comments about the House plan. Does not eliminate the income tax until projected 2033. Requires a substantial and growing annual budget cut. Makes no attempt to replace any of the lost revenue, relies solely on budget cuts for 12 straight years. The budget cuts will be in excess by this man right here, Mark Mukow, The budget cut will be in excess of $3 billion by the end of the plan, over 1/3 of the 2033 budget. We won't even have a state. Look, I've tried with all I can try. It doesn't have to be my plan. I don't care about it being my plan. I'm not hung up on it being Eric's plan or Jim's plan. I don't care. I don't care one bit about that. All I care about is one thing, and that's all these people out here. And we are absolutely, if we don't really bear down on what we're trying to do here, Kevin, to Betsy, then all I know I can do. All I know I can do, and this is what I'll do. I'll go on a constant road show to educate the people. I'll go all across our state, for how long it may take, to educate our people, because the people don't understand. Just like these folks outside that are passing these flyers out, they don't have a clue. They do not have one earthly clue. And at the end of the day, you know, just like I did in the Roads to Prosperity thing, you know, I really believe that once our people understand, because I think I said this, but I have never talked to one person yet that once they really understood, absolutely is not all in. It doesn't need to be my plan. It needs to be really close to my plan and the Senate plan together. It's the only way to go. But we got to get it through the House. None of us are the king, are we? You know, we're not kings. We're not kings. You know, but we absolutely should all be big boys and work together. And I surely hope and pray that we'll be able to do that. Steve, go.
Thank you, Governor.
Oh.
I'm going to have to say thank you, Governor, 4
Okay.
times. I do want to thank you for having people here to talk together today. That seems like it should go without saying, but in deliberative bodies, we don't always do that. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you bringing people together to talk about what's a really big issue. I just wanted to ask 2 questions. One question is about the rebates. That's a part of the plan that our caucus, of your plan, that our caucus really likes, because we are concerned about those on the bottom and how this would potentially affect them moving forward. Is that make or break for you? We've got to have those tax rebates for folks on the bottom as part of this plan, as part of any plan that you're going to support?
Did you ask what? I'm sorry. I did.
Those tax rebates, is that make or break for you as part of any PIT reform or moving forward? It's important to us, and we appreciate that you've included that up at the top of your plan.
Well, Stephen, here's what is make or break. You know, I really believe, not just, and again, I want everybody to understand, if you've got an income of $15,000, we want to bring you out of that income of $15,000. We want to get you a job or bring opportunity to the state and competition to the state where you get a job making $40,000 a year, $60,000 a year. But we got to get there first and foremost, do we not? Do we not have to get there first and foremost? And really, on day one, turn to that family at $15,000 and just say, tough luck. You know, we're going to raise the consumer sales tax and we're going to do this and that and everything. And we're not going to do anything to really help you get by. I can't do that. I can't do that no matter what. Absolutely, we don't have to do that. If we were in a situation with a gun at our head and we had to do something, yeah, it may be a different animal. You may have to do something. We don't have to do that. I've explained to you over and over how we can make everybody cash positive. We don't have to hurt anybody. You had 2 questions, Ted.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That is helpful, and we appreciate you holding to that. So the cuts, You know, down at the bottom of your plan here that we've looked at, it's got miscellaneous Senate and House budget cuts listed at $25 million. I'm just wondering if you've thought about what those might be, because, I mean, I heard you talk about the potential cuts over time in the House plan. We've obviously seen what the potential cuts are in terms of the Senate plan for the budget moving forward, which I think are some pretty important things to you. So what might those look like?
Well, here's what I did, Steve. You know, I had, and again, I don't run from the truth. I don't do that. I just try to tell you the truth. I had multiple meetings. I met with the minority, but I also met many times with the majority. And through all that, I have all confidence in the world in Senator Tarr that he kept saying, we know we've got 25 million in cuts that are really just wasteful stuff that are easy, really easy to do. Now, I don't really know what they are. And, you know, we'll have to all vet and see what they are and everything. And the 10 million of just attrition came from Secretary Hardy, because he said, we have people that are retiring every day that we have proven now we don't need to hire them back. So we can pick up some extra dollars, and all of us, everybody here at this table, we all need to try to do what we can to cut out waste, but not cut out things that are really important to our folks too. So I don't know exactly what Senator Tarr's cuts are, but we just look at them and see that, you know, we can get through that. But I have all the confidence in the world that he'll bring us good stuff.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm concerned about some of what we've seen. I mean, jobs and hope looked like it was getting a cut. Communities and schools looked like it was getting a cut. Tourism looked like it was getting a cut. Those are important things to us. I think they're important things to you too. So I'm just trying to get a sense of what these cuts may look like. But I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate your response.
Well, Stephen, here, as far as, and I've said this over and over, you know, if we cut communities and schools, we might just absolutely just jump off a cliff, because it's the silliest thing in the world. No skin off my nose, but it's silly. Jobs and hope, the same thing. But I think in both those situations that we had extra dollars that we did not have to, you know, from last year that they didn't use or whatever. And I don't think we're really cutting either one of those. But you know, as far as cutting tourism, I mean, we have a story about tourism that is so good. It is so good. It's unbelievable. You know, the thing I guess, you know, Senator Tarr and I disagree on is, and I want to be open-minded. I want to hear it and listen, but it's the cuts to WVU and Marshall. I mean, those are engines that are our economic engines within our state, and there may be dollars that they don't need and whatever like that, or maybe they would agree with and everything, but just cut them, you know, that's pretty tough.
Governor, with all due respect, let's clear that one up for a minute.
Okay, do it, please.
And there's significant resources coming in this year because of COVID. The second round of federal dollars is coming in. That this cut of, what was it, 14 and 12 and 6. Both WVU and Marshall and the other institutions of higher learning will be getting far more than that money coming into their institution. That allowed for that opportunity in this fiscal year to be able to do that.
Is it a one-time cut?
Yeah, because you have a budget every year on that. So it's not built in, and you got growth in there to start with, as you factored in. So it can be this one. Let's say it goes out in a year, but if they end up getting, how much money is it they're getting entirely? How many millions of dollars?
$190 million going to higher ed.
$190 million divided up over there. There's no way that they spent $190 million on COVID-related stuff. And the second round is very, very broadly defined. There's very few guardrails on that that will allow that to happen. They'll have money for years to come to be able to expand out. So that part of it isn't we're going in and slashing them because we're saying we don't like higher education. That's anything but the truth on that. The fact is the resources are out there right now to provide us a bridge to be able to get forward on that.
Okay, I got that. And then everybody should know just this. Now, how many times have I said at the briefings over and over and over and said, the stimulus money's coming, the stimulus money's coming, And here it is, and I've said it and said it. And the only thing I would say is just this. I think WVU and Marshall are economic engines. I don't understand. I do not understand where your cut is or what it may be, but they're real economic engines. I truly believe you all believe they're real economic engines. And if there's a way to do that, because you're dead right, education is getting a slug of money from the stimulus stuff that's off the chart. I mean, it's really totally off the chart. And it will be difficult to spend. And so from the standpoint, but I want us to know just how valuable WVU and Marshall are to us and all of our higher ed, because if we embark on this, we're going to hope like crazy that a bunch of people are going to come. And so we're going to need higher ed. We're going to need that learning in every way. And I don't want to. I just don't think we have to do that. In my plan, I just don't think we have to.
Governor,
That's
I think
why I brought it up, though.
Yeah.
Is because we believe that they're economic engines also for the state. So I want to get that clarity out there so that nobody's thinking that we're going out here and knocking it out. In fact, the Senate put $3 million in to separate Pierpont and Fairmont State, and the reason for it was so they could thrive in their working. So.
And Governor, I think we also took the same approach. Yes, we might have had a higher cut on the House, on the House side, but I think it was incumbent to put them in the general revenue surplus section because we're on target to have a $200 million surplus. And by doing that, Marshall and WVU will be fully funded, and they'll get there much quicker than through the normal budget cycle.
Well, I mean, just so that they are funded and everything, I'm happy, and again, we all as politicians, and God knows I don't want to be that, but all of us, this job grows you to say stuff like, I mean, for God's sakes, y'all, we beat on me till cows come home, and yet we just keep punching out surplus, and everything, and now we're going to turn around and say, well, because we have a surplus, we're able to do this, Well, listen, guys, there's several things, and girls, there's several things that we should always think about. COVID will end. Stimulus will end. It will end. And we best better, while we got a chance, do something. That's all there is to it that will genuinely put our state on a pathway, or we're going to awaken to something that won't be good. It just won't be good.
I think that's exactly right.
No, go ahead.
Delegate staff hasn't spoken yet.
First up, Governor, thanks again for having us here. This is the first time I believe we've all been together, and hope it's not the last time we've all been together. Unfortunately, that's part of what I was going to say. It's a laudable and lofty goal that you have, and I commend you on that. Do away with the personal income tax. We're on day 55. The reality is we got dropped a bill around day 41. And you like stories, so I'll tell a little story. I mean, I look at it as like we had 3 different movies, all right? We had the Senate was playing the movie, we had you playing your movie, and we had the House playing their movie. The problem was all theaters were closed. They were closed, and people couldn't get in. And they couldn't come in, they couldn't talk, we couldn't work through this. And then about day 41, we opened the theaters. And then people got to see, but they didn't even get to see a trailer. They didn't even get to see a preview of this plan back in November or December. And they first heard about it in January. And I commend you. You're doing a heck of a job talking to the people now, holding these forums, holding things like this, holding these public gatherings, so to speak, to get feedback. But we're here on day 55, and our focus is balance a budget, a flat budget, to help the people. And then the timing is all I question. I've told you this. I told you this. The timing, we're coming out of a pandemic. And I get it. Pros and cons of this timing. That's why you think we need to act today, because of these people who look at you and how well we're doing and the vaccines and ahead of the curve. People might want to move to West Virginia because we're right there. But the reality is that some of our numbers and this surplus has been inflated. I mean, there is some fake money out there coming to West Virginia that, like you just said, we're not going to see next year. We're not going to see the following year. these stimulus bucks, who knows when the feds are going to cut them off to the people. So there's possibility of some skewed revenues, okay? Possibility. We talk about 60 million to 80 million in growth assumptions. These are assumptions, and I'm positive like you. I feel good about it, and I think we will grow, but these are assumptions. And I think what the people, if you want to talk to people coming out of a pandemic, they want certainty. They want reliability. They want to get their feet back on the ground. They want to know that their businesses, they want to have a climate that they can believe in. So I question the sense of urgency today that we have to hurry up and do this. I'd be all for us meeting numerous times through the next few months, through the whole summer. Let's get this right. Let's do it right. Let's take part of the Senate's plan, part of the House plan, your plan. Let's get this right. I'd be all there. Sign us up. How can we work together? And I appreciate you having us here and the opportunity to speak up. But let's get it right. I don't think we should rush this. We owe this to the people of West Virginia. I applaud you, and I'm sitting here telling you, thank you for having this. Thank you. I look at it like this. I'm in the building industry. I build houses. Let's just say you have a chimney on your house. Say that chimney crumbles and falls and puts a hole in your roof. All right? You get this big insurance claim. You get this extra money, this free money to fix that hole in your roof. Instead of fixing that hole, you buy a new TV with it. You paint the inside of your house. You put new carpet in. But the hole is still there. And that's what I feel like. So many people says, we have this drug epidemic still going on. We got roads that need repaired. We got small businesses that need to reopen. Our schools are not where they need to be. We're assuming that our house is in order. Our house is in order. Under your leadership, we've done some great things. Nothing in our budgets right now put more money in the broadband. I'd put $2 billion in the broadband right now, and we would be spot on. I'd put $2 billion into fixing our drug epidemic. Then we're diving right into something right now. So as the minority, as representative of the House, we presented with our House Finance Chair here, we offered some amendments to try the plan. Try that plan that he introduced, which I thought was a very responsible plan. Let's just try it for a year. Let's not handcuff you or future legislatures. If it doesn't work in a year, let's use that surplus that we have. Let's try it right now. Try that plan right now for 1 year, see if it works. If it doesn't, while we're working over the summer, let's take a version of your plan or the senator's plan. You know, I'm taking this chance, and I don't want to take any more time, but I know we have session at 6, but I really appreciate what you're trying to do here. It's a laudable effort. I agree with you. We need to do whatever it takes to make this happen, but I question the timing. Right now on day 55, let's work together with the Senator Blair, let's together with everybody, and let's do it right. And that's what I commit to you, and you'll have our support to do it right, but let's not push this and do too fast. Let's do it right.
Well, delegate staff, I just want, I mean, my position is really just simple as it can be. You know, it took me about 20 days when we first started to get you a bill, I think. And that 20 days was spent on meeting and tweaking to where I could get you a bill that was as close to something that made the most sense. I personally believe that opportunity in all of my career and everything that I've done, opportunity, you know, the window's open, you know, and when the window's open, you know, you either seize the opportunity or the window closes. You know, at the end of the day, I've tried with all in me. There is a real urgency today. There's a giant urgency because the whole world is looking at us right now. There is a giant urgency. And if we get this a little wrong and we move, we'll be all right. We'll be fine. If we awaken to a situation down the road where we don't have surpluses, we absolutely have a situation to where, you know, at that point in time, then we'd like to go and do something like this, it'll be really tough. It'll be really tough. The other thing is from broadband, I mean, crying out loud, you know, we got federal money and that RDOF or whatever its name was and on and on. There are COVID dollars, significant COVID dollars, you know, for broadband that are coming down the pike. In addition to the ones that we've already done, we're going to make a real dent in broadband. But absolutely, I keep going right back to just this. How in the world can you look at anybody, and take money out of their pocket? How are you going to do that? anybody, every single wage earner in this state, how are you going to take the money out of their pocket? And then the other thing is, how are you going to deny the opportunity that we have? And how are you going to deny all the business pop that this thing could very well do? I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But I have really, really, really tried. And I know we've only got 5 days left, and we can talk about this for 500 years. But it takes a lot of effort from everybody. I have given you every single thing in my soul to try to get us across the finish line. At the end of the day, if we don't get across the finish line, it'll save me a lot of money. And so the long and the short of it is, I know what it would mean to our people. And I know what it would mean to our businesses. But Roger, you were going to say one other thing, sir. I'm sorry.
I was going to, Billy Scaff and I are somewhat aligned in our thinking about the importance of the plan, Governor. I think you and I have had a lot of meetings about this, and Senate President Blair and I have met several times, and Chairman Householder's been there, Chairman Tarr's been there. I know that the goal here is we got to get more people moving to West Virginia. We know we have to do that. We know it's got to be our objective, and I think this is a component of the plan. I think it is. You've convinced me during the course of this process that this can be a tool that we can use to recruit people to West Virginia, that making our state one of the states that does not have an income tax is a goal we ought to be pursuing. And it took me a while to get there, but I now agree with that approach. We need to do that. It's a component of an overall strategy. We've talked here this afternoon about putting more resources in broadband, putting more resources in higher education. I think everybody here, at least around this table today, has committed to doing all those things. I think we all want to do that. I think we're getting a budget out of here this week that will do those things, that'll be in line with your budget, Governor, that keeps higher education as our driver, that keeps the commitment that we've all collectively made to put more money and more resources in broadband. But this has got to be a part of it. It's got to be a part of our strategy to get people moved to West Virginia. It's got to be done in a way that makes that lets our small businesses take advantage of what you're talking about, which is greater infusion of capital flowing out of people's pockets into the retail merchants that we have out here in small businesses that hire our citizens and grow our economy. And I think between these three plans, there's a path here to get this done. And on behalf of the members of the House, I want to thank you for your diligence on this. You've been on this doggedly for this entire session. We're still on it with you. We're still right there with you in terms of getting it done. I know our Senate colleagues are still right there in terms of getting it done, and we'll keep working on coming up with a plan to get it done. I think it's a laudable approach and one that we've got to get done. On behalf of the House, we thank you for your leadership in this area.
Well, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I want to thank you. You recognize the opportunity for the change state of West Virginia. You're trying to move forward. And, you know, too many times in the past, we've squandered opportunities. This is an opportunity right now that we shouldn't waste away for the people of the state of West Virginia. And whether they're unemployed or whether they're drug addicts, whatever it may be. You know, job opportunities solve a lot of problems. And it makes it so that you've got a viable tax base, so that you can have the roads and that you can have the prosperity that many other states do have, because they have drug problems also. Governor, you've seen a window of opportunity to step forward and say we need to do something about it and do something about it now. I'm not too bothered by waiting, okay? Dragging this on forever doesn't get the job done. Now, are we prepared to do this today? No. But maybe tomorrow, the sooner the better. I don't want to waste time. And I think I'm the long-serving legislator sitting up here at this table. I had something else that got into my crawl a little bit. And you go back in time a little bit, and I can remember where we weren't invited to the table at all, to have these discussions. On the Senate side, we work together and do a good job of being able to come forward, and you know that, guys, on what we're trying to get done. But that's what got us in the situation that we're in this state, is not working together. We ended up having haves and have-nots. And this is what this tax plan that we're talking about is. The haves don't want to sacrifice just a little bit so that the have-nots, and then the have-nots are the working people of West Virginia, specifically the working poor, where we're trying to bring them up in this state and make it so that other people will move here as well. That's how prosperity. Again, I applaud you, because what you're attempting to do will get the job done. We have the intestinal fortitude, the perseverance to be able to go forward and do this. So thank you. And we need to leave soon.
Okay, well, we're going to leave right now. So listen, I thank all of you, especially our Senate President, our Speaker, and all those that are with it from the minority side, and all of our finance people and majorities and minorities and everything. And I really mean this. You know, if we just dial into this one thing, the monies are the people's monies. They're not our money. And I'm trying to put money back into people's hands, and I'm trying to do something that is really going to be beneficial, but I know y'all are trying to do the exact same thing. And so let's just keep working, okay? Everybody, thank you so much.